the bombshell findings around the trove of anti-Semitic slurs by the alleged caravan terror plot mastermind. And let's bring in Executive Council of Australian Jewry co-CEO Alex Ryvchin. Alex, thanks so much for joining us once again.
Thank you, Sharon.
Look, what's your reaction to the fact that police came out a week ago and said anti-Semitism wasn't a motivating factor, and now we see all this evidence in the Australian?
Well, it was really disappointing, Shari, because the police, we know, want to keep us safe. We know they've devoted immense resources and manpower to hunting these people, to solving the crimes. We know they want to keep the Jewish community and wider society at peace and harmony. We know this. And they did fantastic work in making arrests and investigating these fire bombings and the Jewry incident as well. But they seem to have undone that fine work with their communication. And like you said at the outset, words matter. And we have to understand that the revelations from these investigations were incredibly serious. We learned that in addition to everything we faced over the past 17 months, the doxing, the vilification, the harassment, everything happening at schools and universities and the medical system and support for terrorism and street abuse, on top of all that, you now have hardened criminals paying off lowly hoodlums to set fire to our buildings and cars and set our streets ablaze with reckless disregard for what happens. And it's a miracle that no one was killed. But for some reason, the police, in announcing this, chose to completely downplay it, refer to it as a con job and a fake and all these sorts of things. And predictably, that set off a whole stream of conspiracy theories about a Mossad hit and an inside job, and all those negative actors who for 17 months have sought to downplay or deny anti-Semitism were given this immense gift. And why they chose to do that, why they chose to undermine their wonderful police work is really beyond me.
I mean, do you think it's similar to the Gas the Jews commentary when police, again, took something that was so vile on the steps of the Opera House and said there was basically no issue because the words were kill the Jews, not gas the Jews?
Well, in contrast, I think the Gas the Jews incident now looks trivial and like a mere peculiarity, given the magnitude of this announcement and the words they used in this case. I think the implications have been far graver. With Gas the Jews, where's the Jews? I thought that was a dubious thing for the police to do, to effectively try to exculpate those who were chanting those words. And bog us down in a dispute about whether it was where's the Jews or gas the Jews, as though one was better than the other. That was peculiar. But this has really broken the momentum in terms of trying to actually fight anti-Semitism and deliver solutions to the anti-Semitism crisis and a national security crisis. Yeah. And as I mentioned, it's allowed negative actors who have tried to downplay it this whole time to now galvanize and to try to dampen all the momentum and the enthusiasm for actually solving this problem. So it's really incredibly disappointing.
And now there's a push to repeal hate speech laws in New South Wales Parliament. Alex, you and your organisation have been calling for tougher laws for years. And in fact, your organisation has had to take civil action because the current laws are so inadequate.
That's right. And it didn't begin on October 7th. For many years, we've seen on occasion extreme clerics and others trying to effectively revive medieval hatreds and bring foreign conflicts to our streets, inciting their followers to menace the Jewish community and to commit acts of violence. And for a long time, we've advocated for stricter laws against incitement of this sort. It's not about speech. It's not about the exchange of ideas. We're talking about words that are intended to incite hatred and violence in our communities. That's something extremely serious. And after October 7, we of course saw a whole series of clerics, again, glorifying the Hamas attacks, encouraging their followers to do likewise, speaking specifically of Jews in the most violent, hateful terms imaginable. And there's no real remedy criminally. And so my organisation was forced to bring action under Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act, which really, for the sorts of grave incidents that we're seeing, is not the adequate remedy. And these laws, again, it's a byproduct of the language used by the police in discounting anti-Semitism as a motive, because now we're seeing these attacks on the Premier of New South Wales. He's being accused of rushing through these laws as a knee-jerk reaction to Jewry, when in fact these laws have been brewing for many, many years and are badly needed.
Indeed they are. Now, Alex, I want to ask you about the outcomes from our anti-Semitism summit a few weeks ago now. Now, you wrote to Peter Dutton. He's publicly said that he would commit to every single one of the action points. that fall under federal remit. Now, you've also written to the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. Have you heard back yet about whether he'll implement the action plan?
Not as of yet, Shari, and we eagerly wait that response because, particularly in light of what's happened in the last week or so with the diminishing of anti-Semitism as a priority issue, I think it's incumbent on the Prime Minister to respond to those 15 points, which are all reasonable, which deal with both the short-term and the long-term issues that give rise to anti-Semitism, which will restore societal harmony to our great country. And we need the Prime Minister to take a position on this and to show whether the fight against anti-Semitism can be something that unifies the major parties and unifies society, or whether there's a clear difference between the two major parties in how they view anti-Semitism and how they seek to combat it.
Yeah, well, hopefully we do get an answer from the Prime Minister because, as you said, that action point is still desperately needed despite the current attempts to downplay this whole crisis. Alex, thank you so much once again for your strong advocacy.